Much for being here this morning. I'm Jonathan Salk, CEO of CORFAC, and it is my pleasure to introduce Topher Stephenson this morning. Great topic, very timely.
All right.
But before I begin,
It's already up.
if everybody could mute, that would be great. Before I begin, I'd like to share a couple of announcements first. I think all of you have gotten enough emails from staff to know that we have a new website and a new members-only info hub. So I will say, if you haven't already, please take a few minutes to activate your member account to ensure your profile is visible in the directory so you get access to all of our resources, online community, deal platform, etc. And if you haven't done a new profile, you just got an email from Jennifer yesterday with a link on how to do that. So please do it. Otherwise, you really aren't taking full advantage of what's available to you through the network. My second comment is the fall conference, 3 months away in Chicago. Our local firm, Darwin, and staff and our conference committee have put together an outstanding program, including topics on AI, logistics, business development, marketing, deal making, etc. We've got a couple of really fun networking events as well. It's going to be a great event. And as usual, we have special promotions on discounted registration for marketing folks and next gens. So registration is going to open in a couple of weeks. Keep your eyes open. And we hope to see you all there. So please join me right now in welcoming Topher Stephenson. He is co-founder of CRE AI Studio. He's going to talk to us about AI trends and tools to increase your productivity and prospecting. So please mute yourselves, and Topher, it's all yours.
All right. Let's see. Let me just go ahead and share my screen here. Can you guys see this okay?
All good.
All right. So I'm not going to go full screen with my presentation here because I'm actually not going to be going through a lot of slides today. That's kind of the fun thing about doing these live presentations behind a computer is, instead of clicking through a bunch of slides, I can actually just fire up some of these AI tools and just kind of walk through step by step what we're actually going to be doing here. So with that said, thank you so much for having me today. Super flattered that you folks reached out to me to put on this webinar, and I'm super excited to chat with you all about AI for commercial real estate and some ways that you can actually use it. So let's dig right into it. Just a little bit about me before we really get going, in case you're wondering to yourself, okay, who is this guy and why should I listen to him talk about AI and commercial real estate? Again, my name's Topher Stephenson. I am a commercial real estate technology consultant, and I'm also the co-founder of CRE AI Studio, which is an online learning platform that we built so that commercial real estate professionals just like yourselves can learn how to put these incredible tools to work in their daily commercial real estate workflows. And prior to that, I'd spent right around a decade in commercial real estate across a variety of positions. I started off in digital marketing, trying to get commercial properties across the country out in front of the right people, eventually shifted over to the in-house leasing side of things. And so kind of shifted from how do we use technology to actually get properties in front of people to how do we leverage automation to actually facilitate getting a deal done. And then I shifted into brokerage management and operations. And so again, kind of shifted to how do we leverage technology to, position ourselves, operationalize and systematize ourselves for scale and a little bit of growth. And so the linchpin across my career has always just been staying ahead of the curve in technology as it pertains to commercial real estate and solving everyday problems in commercial real estate using that technology. And so right now, in my opinion, if you want to stay ahead of the curve and you want to learn how to solve problems in commercial real estate, it's all about learning to use and learning to leverage some of these incredible AI tools. And so just out of curiosity, before we really get going here, I'm going to switch over screens in a second, but if you folks don't mind just typing into the chat, what's the most common AI tool that you're using today? Just you think AI and this is the tool that you pull up. What's everybody using? I'm kind of curious to see. Got some Chat GPT, we got Claude and Chat GPT. Claude chat. Heck yeah. Okay. That's perfect because we're going to be spending most of the session in Chat GPT and Claude. So that's great. But we are going to throw in one additional tool that I think is just extremely useful no matter what your role is in commercial real estate. But ChatGPT was the first one that I saw. And so let's pop right over to ChatGPT. Now, so the first thing I want to go over, and this might be a little basic for some of you, but is just the concept of prompting technique. AI is getting smarter every single day. There's so many things that you can do with it, but the quality of the output that you're going to get from AI and the quality of the work that you can actually execute with AI's help is all going to come down to your ability to prompt AI and to give it context regarding what you're actually working with it on. And so I really only have a couple of prompting frameworks that I'm going to go over today. I could go through 6 to 7, but really the most powerful one that I could talk to you about is the concept of I am, you are, ask me questions. So when you're working with ChatGPT or your AI tool of choice, this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to let ChatGPT know who you are in this situation and what you actually want to get done. It's going to tell it what its role is so that it's not trying to access random, irrelevant information. You're giving it a persona so that it can help you with a specific task. And then, instead of writing out a giant 18 paragraph prompt, you're telling it to ask you additional questions so that it can actually get the context that it needs to perform the task that you're trying to work with it on. Now, so let's jump right into working with AI to try to find a potential deal. And sorry, I just copy and pasted the wrong thing. So I'm going to copy and paste in my prompt. And here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. We're going to use AI to try to identify potential companies that might be a good fit for an open listing that we have. So I'm telling ChatGPT, I am a commercial real estate broker. You are my commercial real estate researcher. I'm listing an office space with 15,000 square feet of vacancy in Seattle, Washington. I need your help to help me brainstorm different types of companies that would make a good fit for the space based on the local economy, business trends, etc. Please ask me up to 10 questions about the space in the building so that you can better brainstorm types of companies that might make a good fit for this building. Now, so if I could just leave you with one single tip from today's session, it would be this sentence right here. Please ask me up to 10 questions. If you're in a hurry, could be up to 5 questions, but this can really be the difference between generating AI slop that is not really going to be that helpful at all and actually producing an output that's going to be helpful to what you're trying to do. Now, last but not least, before I turn this on and really get going with this prompt, you want to make sure that if you're doing legitimate knowledge work, you're working with ChatGPT thinking mode. Now, every major large language model has a variation on thinking mode. With Claude, I believe it's called, low intensity to high intensity or max intensity. You want to experiment with it and see what works for you depending on the tool that you're using. But if you're just doing a quick AI search for some information, instant mode's probably just fine. It's going to work pretty quickly. But you typically, if you're doing actual knowledge work, you want to be working with ChatGPT thinking mode. So I'm going to let this prompt go. And hopefully, within a couple of seconds here, it'll fire back these questions. So it's asking me again for some useful context that I could have tried to package into a giant prompt, but instead I'm going to go through and just answer these questions here. Now, I'm going to do this very quickly for the purpose of this demonstration, but you obviously really want to think through the context and the information that you're given to ChatGPT. So it's asking, what neighborhood or submarket is it in? I'm going to say right downtown. What type of office building is it? Let's go with Class A tower. Is the vacancy contiguous and what floor is it on? I'm going to say contiguous high floor because this is a made up vacancy. What is the current build out like? I'm going to tell it mostly open office with private offices on the perimeter. What is the parking situation? Again, I'm going fast here, but I'll go with ample parking. How transit accessible is the building? I'm just going to say very, highways nearby. What amenities does the building have or immediate area offer? I'm going to go with all of the above. Walkable area. What is the preferred lease structure? I'm going to go with triple net. And are there any building constraints or special features? I'm just going to tell it that I'm going to say no constraints, but it's asking what type of tenant we want to avoid. I'm going to say high foot traffic tenants, and we'll see what it gives back to me. So again, the general idea here is instead of just typing in a quick two-sentence prompt and hoping for the best, we're telling AI who you are. We're giving AI its role and its perspective in regards to this task. And we're telling it to ask us what it really needs to know to be able to accomplish this task. And so this particular exercise is specific to finding a potential tenant, but the exercise of having it ask you questions, that will really be relevant across anything that you're trying to do with AI. So it's gone through and it's giving me some types of tenants that it's suggesting we pursue based on the local economy, based on the local business news. As you can see, it's linking to different news articles in this output that it's provided me, and the types of businesses that it will thinks will actually make a good fit for this building. So that's a great start, but now I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to say, that list sounds great. Now, please identify 25 actual companies matching those company types that would make a good fit for the space that we should reach out to based on recent indications from the company that they may need office space. Please be sure to include why you think they're a good fit for the space. Now, this is something that you could just try to ask ChatGPT from the get-go. But again, because we've gone through this exercise and we've already provided it all this additional context on this building and this space, it's going to do a much better job. So I'm going to let that go, but I am going to tell it one more thing because I ran this experiment earlier. Do not just provide potential companies from one specific sector. Spread it out. And the reason that I'm telling that is I ran this exercise earlier, and there's been such an AI boom in Seattle, Washington, that it literally only gave me AI companies because there's been so many announcements of seed funding and expansions. And so it was right to give me those examples because those companies that just got additional seed funding, they're likely going to be expanding their headcount. Maybe they need to expand their office or move to a new office. But in this particular scenario, I want to try to get a bunch of different kinds of businesses that we might be able to reach out to. So now, as you can see here, it's going through and it's actually searching through the internet. It's doing a quick search to pull different businesses in the Seattle market that might actually be a fit for expansion in this area. And so I was right about getting worried that it wouldn't finish in time, but here we go here. We have, again, it's pulling in a lot of AI because there's been a lot of AI in the news in the Seattle, Washington area recently. And so my hope was that it was going to give me more companies than just that. Oh, and it is. It's giving me some fusion energy groups, It's telling me Seattle Fusion startup announced $29 million in funding for their compact fusion technology. It's giving me Star Cloud. This is an orbital data group. We have aerospace. We have Armada. And so, still a lot of AI companies, but we have some AI accounting and consulting thrown in there. And now, in the course of a couple of minutes, we've gone from telling AI that we want to lease a particular office space to now we have a potential list of 25 companies that have somehow indicated they're likely to expand that we could reach out to actually fill this space. So the reason that I started off with this is every broker that I talk to with AI, their first focus is how do we use AI to actually get a deal done? And AI can absolutely help you find expanding companies and facilitate getting a deal done, but it all comes back to the strength of your prompt and your ability to actually give AI the context that it needs to perform this exercise for you. And so, again, if there's one thing that you leave today's session with, please ask me up to 10 questions. That will potentially 10x the level of output that you get from ChatGPT when you're working with it. So that is a quick example of how you might be able to use AI to facilitate getting a deal done. And the next prompting tip that I want to give you is specific to a AI feature called deep research. So one more question I'm just going to throw out that if you don't mind just answering in the chat, has anybody here used deep research before? And if you don't mind, just give me an example of what you're using it for. Oh, Scott Hensley, while we're waiting here, he said, have you found the 10 questions prompt better than uploading the marketing flyer? So, marketing flyer, that would be a good place to start. But the benefit of uploading the marketing flyer is you're going to give it a lot of useful information right in that flyer. And then you could still ask it to ask you additional questions on top of that. And you're going to get even more dialed in with the information and the context that you're providing AI. So if you have the marketing flyer, that's a great place to start. But truly, I would say the Ask Me 10 Questions tip, that will help you improve your output no matter how you're using AI. Doesn't matter what tool you're using, in my particular opinion. So I'm not seeing any answers on the deep research. And so I'm going to go ahead and just launch in and show you why deep research can be powerful. So the reason that deep research is such a powerful AI feature is that what we just performed, that's essentially a quick AI powered internet search, which is very, very useful. Deep research is AI powered search on steroids. Instead of just telling ChatGPT or I want you to do a quick internet search on this particular topic, AI is going to absolutely scour the internet to find you as many matches that meet your criteria as possible. And so instead of just saying, hey, search the news and find me potential tenants, you can get very specific. You can say, I want to find tenants that are located in this particular area in in this particular date range have somehow indicated they're likely to move or expand. And deep research is going to find all the potential news publications and articles that have somehow indicated that there's a tenant in your market that is likely to expand. And so instead of doing a quick AI powered search, you are literally scouring the internet to find all of these potential opportunities. So to go back here, I am going to find my deep research assistance prompt. And instead of just typing in my prompt, my second prompting tactic that can really help improve your output with these AI tools is that you can actually have AI help you develop your prompts. Now, you're not always going to need this, but if you are using some of these more robust, more advanced AI features like deep research, using AI to actually draft the prompt can go a really long way because AI is going to have access to the documentation for that particular feature or that particular AI tool. And so it's going to be able to craft a prompt based on the best practices for that feature that you're actually trying to use. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT, I need you to help me draft a prompt for deep research based on deep research prompting best practices. I have a retail vacancy for lease in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I need deep research to comb through news articles published in Michigan in the past 6 months that mention retailers in the state that have somehow indicated they're likely to expand. Things like hiring announcements, companies that are already actively expanding, et cetera, et cetera. Can you write the deep research prompt for me? So I'm going to let that go. And now it would still be useful to have AI ask you additional questions about what you're trying to do in this scenario. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to skip that. But within just a couple of seconds here, we have this giant, well-crafted deep research prompt that AI helped us produce that is custom tailored and specific to the way that deep research works. And so if I was to type out this prompt on my own, this would take a ton of time. But now I have this prompt that ChatGPT actually put together for me, and I can just copy and paste it into a new chat and let deep research run. So one quick note on deep research, it's not a specific AI tool. Deep research is a feature of basically every large language model that's available right now. It started out on Google Gemini. It worked so well that ChatGPT implemented it, and now you can actually use it on Claude as well. So I'm going to give ChatGPT this deep research prompt. And again, instead of performing a quick AI internet search, it is going to absolutely scour the internet for all the potential news articles that match my criteria. And before it really gets going, it's actually going to give you its research plan so that if you see something that's wrong with it, or if you say, nah, I'm not really looking for tenants that meet that criteria, I want to change that, you can edit that before it really gets going. So one of the downsides to deep research is that this could take potentially a long time to run because, again, it's not a quick internet search. This is zooming through the internet trying to find as much information as it possibly can. And so I've actually already run this deep research exercise out of Claude. So I'm going to pull it up and I'll show you the results here. So again, instead of just a quick AI output, I have a thorough, deep research report on all of these retailers in Grand Rapids, Michigan that have somehow indicated, hey, we are hiring new people, or hey, we're already expanding in this market, or hey, maybe we don't have a location in this market yet, but our franchise has been approved to open new locations in this particular area. And so, again, instead of just a quick internet search, it's produced this targeted list of all these potential opportunities for a deal. So, a couple quick notes on deep research. Scanning for potential tenants is really just one use case. There are appraisers out there who are basically using deep research to compile the vast majority of their market analysis reports. It's a fantastic tool for different types of market analysis. And if you are trying to find potential properties that are likely to go up for sale, it can also be a fantastic feature for that as well. Because think about it, the indications that mean a property is likely to go up for sale or maybe that it's distressed, a lot of that information is publicly available information, and there's a good chance that you can access it in your market using an AI feature like deep research. So I am going to shift over to another platform that I think is hyper useful in commercial real estate. But does anybody have any questions on anything we've covered so far regarding the prompting techniques or deep research before we get going? I'm seeing none, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat or just save them for the end, and we'll let everybody ask anything that they want. So, the tool that I think is extremely useful for commercial real estate is a platform called Notebook LM. And the reason that I think Notebook LM is such a powerful tool for commercial real estate is it's not AI that is built for searching the internet. It's not AI that is built for, writing you a poem or being creative. Notebook LM is AI that is purpose built to be trained on you. It's purpose built to ground itself only in the documents and the sources that you give it provided that you provide to it. And so that makes it an incredibly useful tool because you don't have to worry about it making stuff up. It's only going to provide you information, stats, and insights that it's pulled directly from your documents and your sources. And so, what are some ways that you might be able to actually put this to use? Well, one fantastic use case of Notebook LM is just analyzing your property documentation. If you are analyzing a potential acquisition and you have all of these documents that you need to pull information from, it can be a fantastic tool for analyzing those documents extremely quickly. And so I have this particular notebook loaded up with all of this due diligence documentation from this particular building. This is an imaginary building for confidentiality purposes, but let me just show you how easy it is to pull this information. I'm going to tell my notebook, please pull me the tenants and list their expiration dates. And again, Notebook LM is not going to start searching the internet for this information. It's not going to go through its training data to provide me this information. It's only going to provide me the information that it can actually source in the documents that I provided to it. And so we can quickly go through and see the actual tenants and when their leases are going to be expiring just by going directly to the rent roll that we have in our notebook. And so chatting with your information in your documents, that's one particular use case of Notebook LM, but it's also a fantastic tool for synthesizing information. Over in the studio section, we have all of these different ways that we can work with our documents to analyze this information and synthesize it however we want to. And so if I wanted to quickly extract some information and put that into a spreadsheet, I could go over to my sources. I could select only the rent roll that I want to work with, and I could say, please extract the rent roll to a clean data table. And this will take at least a second to run here, but here's the example that I ran earlier today. As you can see, it is cleanly exported all of this information to a data table. And if I want to, I can quickly export all of this information to a spreadsheet. And so Notebook LM can be a fantastic tool for analyzing potential acquisitions or just documentation that you have on a particular building. Imagine how useful it would be to have your own custom AI assistant that is trained on nothing but the leases for a particular building that you represent. All of that information can be quickly and easily accessible at your fingertips. But I should say, Notebook LM has actually evolved since it first rolled out. When they first rolled out Notebook LM, it was specifically more of a tool for analyzing your sources and your own documents. As you can see here, you could link it to a Google Drive, you could throw in copy and pasted text, you could upload various files, or even link it to a YouTube video or a website if you wanted to. But it's now also a very good tool for sourcing information. And so if you are trying to analyze a new market that you're considering doing business in, Notebook LM can be a fantastic tool to help you with that. I'm going to tell Notebook, please find me the latest 2026 Commercial Real Estate Market Update Reports for Los Angeles Commercial Real Estate Market. Only provide market reports from trusted commercial real estate sources like established brokerages, data providers, and news outlets. Now, if you want to, again, deep research, which I mentioned earlier, they have deep research baked directly into Notebook LM. And so you could have Notebook scour the internet for the commercial real estate sources that you're looking for and train your notebook only on that information. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to click Fast Research. And as you can see, I don't even necessarily have to upload my own sources to Notebook LM. It's going to start searching the internet for me and find me the commercial real estate market updates that actually match what I'm looking for. And so within a couple of minutes, I have my own custom tailored AI assistant that's trained on nothing but this commercial real estate market report. And so I'm going to click over to one that I've already created here. And if I wanted to, I could go through and say, please tell me all of the stats I should know on LA's retail market. And it is quickly going to scour through these sources, which have information on LA's entire commercial real estate market. And it's only going to provide me the stats for the retail market that I need to know based on what I'm actually looking for. But while it is working on that, I'm going to show you one more particular thing. Oh, it's already done here. So we have vacancy rates, we have the net absorption, we have the rents and leasing activity, and all of that information, because these are market updates that we didn't necessarily provide it went out and sourced this information, we can click in and actually see where it got this information from. And so this is a trust but verify situation. You know, you want to work with AI so that it can pull you information quickly, but Notebook LM makes it extremely easy to see where AI is actually getting the information that it's providing you. And maybe you're in a hurry today and you don't necessarily have time to chat with Notebook LM to learn about the market. Again, there's all of these different studio features that can also be useful to you. So if you're really in a hurry, I could click into this audio overview section and I could tell it, please create me a podcast outlining the updates on LA's retail market. And this will take a little bit of time to run here, but within a couple of minutes, I would have something that sounds just like this.
Well, if you have a physical therapy clinic, patients are coming in once or twice a week, right? They grab a coffee next door, they pick up a prescription, maybe they stop at the stable grocery and medical tenants, but they can never recreate the location.
So I'm not going to play the entire podcast because we're going to run out of time here. But, you know, if you are running around, you have a super busy day and you don't necessarily have time to work with AI to generate a market analysis report, you can literally create a podcast and listen to it on the way to your next meeting. And so I'm going to run through one or two more use cases with Notebook LM. But if you haven't used it before, I would say it is one of the easiest AI tools to get up and running to actually start winning some time back in commercial real estate because you don't need to worry about whether or not AI made up the information. It's going to pull it for you right from the source and you can synthesize it however you need to. So for the last example, I'm actually going to go back to, let's see, this particular notebook that I built to cover a potential tenant. Because again, we're talking about using AI to potentially win some business. You know, maybe you need to analyze a market that you want to expand into. Maybe you need to, you know, use AI to find some potential tenants. But at some point, you have to actually meet with this client and pitch them on their business. And so AI can be a fantastic tool for doing just that if you're working with Notebook LM, because you can go through and find all of these potential sources of publicly available information on the company that you're trying to win the business of. And you can synthesize that information, again, however you want. And so maybe we don't know this company that well, and we need to learn more about Actively AI so that we can know what's important to their business and actually sit down with them and try to win that business. I can use Notebook LM to create a mind map that shows me everything that I might need to know about this company based on this publicly available information. And so I could quickly scan through what's their company overview. Okay, they have a headcount of 75 to 125 people. That would be useful information. Maybe I want to check and see what is their funding like? And so I can see the different seed funding rounds and how they've raised money over time. Then it looks like we have a section on real estate and culture. They have an NYC headquarters. They have some expansions that they've done in San Francisco. And oh, we have some information on their work model. Looks like they have a mandatory 5-day in-office policy. And so you can click on any of those items and very quickly get a read on that particular topic and see what's most important to the company that you're actually trying to pitch the business of. So maybe you've gotten this far, and for some reason I keep dragging this thing around by accident, but there we go here. So you have some information on the company that you're trying to pitch the business of, but at some point, you're actually going to need to create some marketing collateral to actually pitch this company on their business. Well, that's something that Notebook LM and really a variety of AI tools at this point can help you out with as well. I'm going to go back to my Los Angeles commercial real estate notebook, and let me just find my finished prompt over here. I am going to tell my notebook that I have an investor client who's considering expanding into the Los Angeles retail market, and I'm building my pitch deck to advise them on the market. Please provide me the content for the market update section of the pitch deck, formatted with clean titles and bullet points for each slide. So honestly, when I first started giving these presentations, I had a very particular tool that I would showcase for building decks. I'm a huge fan of an AI platform called Gamma because it makes it extremely easy to use AI to create polished decks. But AI has come such a long way since then that whatever major large language model you're working with, there's a good chance you can use it to produce a pitch deck or a PowerPoint, whatever kind of marketing collateral you're trying to put together. And so if you wanted to, you could actually create a slide deck right within Notebook LM. It's not my preferred AI tool of choice to create a client-facing deck, but it can be a fantastic tool to brainstorm with and actually produce the content for your deck based on the information that you've collected or that you've provided in your sources. And so we have, looks like 6 different slides here with titles. We have bullet points. And again, if you're working with AI to help craft some kind of marketing content, your job is not done at this point. Obviously, you would want to work back and forth with AI to actually put together marketing copy that actually sounds like you, that actually speaks to your client and your business and what makes you stand out in the marketplace. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I am going to go back over to ChatGPT. I am going to paste in this content, but I am also going to give it a more specific prompt. And I'm going to do a couple of things here. I am going to provide it with a prompt saying, please create a PowerPoint deck using the uploaded branded presentation as a style reference. So somebody mentioned here, hey, can you upload a piece of marketing collateral to AI to analyze, absolutely, you can do that. And we're going to do that in just a second here. And so I'm telling it first, study the template's colors, the fonts, the layouts, the logo placement, spacing, etc., and get a sense of the design style. Then turn the content below into a polished, editable PowerPoint that looks like it belongs to the same brand. Use the existing template layouts and the visual patterns wherever possible. Keep the slides clean, professional, and not overly text heavy. Rewrite slide titles and tighten copy where helpful, but do not change the meaning. And so this is a prompt that I actually created by going back and forth with ChatGPT and having it ask me questions about the process and what I wanted to accomplish. So I probably could have come up with that on my own, but I think I came up with a much better prompt by using AI as a thought partner to actually create this prompt. And so I am going to pull it a design template that it can use for reference. And just to show everybody what we're working with here, this is a brochure for a building from this made-up commercial brokerage called Sterling Industrial Advisors. I'm providing that design template to ChatGPT, and now ChatGPT is going to go to work. It's not just going to spit out a PowerPoint, but it's actually going to analyze the original brochure that I provided it so that it can understand what the branding looks like, so that it can pull out the logo, so that it can pull out the general themes and the overall stylings of the type of marketing collateral that we want to create. Now, unfortunately, this is probably going to take a little bit too long to run for the purpose of this demonstration, but I am going to go over and show you what the finished product looks like. Assuming this will load up for me. Here we go. So I was able to run this exercise earlier, and as you can see here, ChatGPT was able to put together a PowerPoint deck that looks quite a bit like the original brochure template that I uploaded to it. It took all of the same colors, it took the logo that we had and that we made available. And would I say this is absolutely the best PowerPoint of all time? Not necessarily. There's a couple spacing errors that you would probably want to change around. But again, ChatGPT has made it very easy and accessible to use this particular feature. And so you don't have to go back and forth with ChatGPT to edit the marketing collateral that you're putting together. You can actually click the download button and it will literally download this as an editable PowerPoint deck. And so again, there are many different tools that you can use for building decks for commercial real estate when it comes to AI. ChatGPT and Claude, they've come a very, very long way in enabling you to do this. If you want to use something that is a little bit more purpose-built for creating decks, I personally love a tool called Gamma. Or if you want a platform that is purpose-built for commercial real estate, there's a platform called CRE AI that is also absolutely worth checking out. So I know we're starting to come up on time here. I think the plan was to go through 11:50 and then open it up for Q&A. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of what I view as the second step in leveraging AI. And step number one is exactly what we've been doing throughout this presentation. It's testing and experimenting. You know, the whole goal of working with AI should be going back and forth with it, trying different use cases, and finding ways that you can use AI that will actually save you time. Now, once you have found some ways to actually save time with AI, you can customize AI to work for you. You can customize it to be a specific kind of thought partner, or you can actually customize it to execute very specific tasks so that if you've gone back and forth with AI and you found a really useful way to save time, you just open up your customized version of AI and it already knows what you want it to do. It's already locked and loaded to help you execute that task. And so instead of just talking about it, I'm going to take you through an actual demonstration of customizing AI to work for you. Now, there are multiple ways that you can customize AI. The newest way to do it would be to create a skill. That's starting to get a little bit advanced. And so before you create an AI skill, I would highly recommend creating a customized AI project. Now, so a project is not all that complicated. You give your project a name. I'm going to call this one the OM Databaser. And the meat and potatoes of what you can do with a project from here all come down to providing it instructions. Now, if you wanted to work with AI to do something as simple as type up emails, you could give AI instructions so that it always takes on the persona of your client. You could say, I'm trying to draft an email providing some bad news to my potential client. I want to go back and forth with you, and you take on this specific persona so that I can brainstorm with you and see how my client's going to react to that bad news. That's one potential way of working with a custom project. You can have AI take on a specific persona so that it can help you with those specific tasks based on what that persona would likely think. But you can also give it specific instructions to help you execute a specific tedious task. Now, so I'm going to give it the instructions that I actually built for somebody by request. And I'm just going to copy and paste these instructions, and I'll show you a little bit about how they work. I'm telling AI the purpose of this GPT, it's actually in the case of Claude, it's a project, is to provide detailed offering memorandum summaries. The user will upload an offering memorandum, usually in the form of the PDF. You will analyze the document and produce a detailed summary of that offering memorandum. Once you've provided the output, ask the user if they would like it added as a new deal on their active OM database in Monday.com. That happens to be a project management tool where I personally log a lot of information. We'll go through that in more detail in just a second here. Then I'm providing some requirements around this task. I'm telling it very specifically what I want it to pull out of this offering memorandum. And at the bottom, I'm giving it some additional instructions. I'm telling it to ensure that it extracts and includes any additional relevant information not listed above if it is deemed important for understanding the offering memorandum. So I am going to save these instructions, and that's really all that you need to do to customize AI to work for you. It's as simple as coming up with a set of instructions to tell AI how you want to interact with it and what you want it to do when you're working in this specific project. And then if you've built your instructions well, you don't necessarily need to even provide it a prompt at all. You can just upload a document that you're working with. In this case, I'm giving it a dummy offering memorandum that I've created. I'm clicking the button, and it doesn't need a complicated prompt to get started because it already has the instructions baked into it. It already knows the task that I want it to run. And so, as you can see here, it's going through the offering memorandum, it's extracting the text, and this might take a little while to run because I have so many AI tools open at this point, but it's going to extract the information from this meaty, 30 to 50 page offering memorandum, provide me the deal summary so that I can see, is this actually a deal that one of my clients would be interested in? And then if it is, I can crack open that offering memorandum and read the thing from top to bottom and really get cooking on whether or not we should submit an offer. And so here we go. It's provided me the offering memorandum summary. I have the lease information. I have the property information. And last but not least, it's asking me if I would like to add this deal to my active offering memorandum database. And so I'm just going to type yes. I'm going to make sure my Monday.com is connected here. Looks like it is. And so I'm going to tell it, yes, please upload that deal to my database. Now, while it's working on that, that is another very useful way for you to customize AI to work for you. You're not necessarily limited to just using AI as the AI tool that you're using every single day. These AI tools, this is true of ChatGPT, this is true of Google Gemini, this is true of Claude. They enable you to connect to many of the platforms that you're used to working out of every single day. In fact, they very recently released a connection for Microsoft 365. And so if you want to use AI to work with files that might be in your Google Drive, or maybe some information that you're keeping in a project management system, or even your CRM, if you wanted to work with AI to say, hey, find me 5 to 10 contacts that I haven't contacted in the last 30 days and build me a call list for today. You could use AI to connect to your CRM, pull those potential contacts, and build you a list of people that you actually want to reach out to that morning. So connecting your various tools that you're working with AI with, that can be a fantastic way of customizing AI to work for you. But building projects that can help you execute a specific task, that is another very useful way to work with AI so that it actually knows who you are and the tasks that you're trying to accomplish. And so let's see, it looks like, I'm just going to double check here, because I have my Claude connected to Monday.com, not only was it able to read through this document and provide me a summary of the information in the document, but hopefully, my fingers crossed here, it was actually able to push that information into my online deal database. And so instead of clicking and dragging and manually typing in a bunch of information into my deal database, Claude has gone through, extracted that information, and just put it where I need it to go for me. And so, as you know, there's a lot of manual, nitty-gritty, tedious tasks that take place in commercial real estate, from data entry to market research to analyzing the market and trying to find opportunities. And if you can learn to prompt with AI, if you can learn to select the correct tools for the job, and if you can learn to customize AI to work for you, it can enable you to do a lot of this tedious minutia all that more faster. And so I'm sorry, I know I went about 4 minutes over time, but I really appreciate you all working with me on this webinar. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did, and I'm more than happy to stick around for any questions that folks might have.
There is a question in the chat, Topher.
Oh, sure.
It just popped up. Yeah.
What do we got here? If we use Google Suite, is Claude better to pair or work within for Gemini utilization of our own Google Drive files? No, in that case, if you already have Google Suite, I would say their connection is generally going to be better than the Claude's connection. Claude's connection is going to work through an MCP, which they're fantastic. Again, it's a fantastic way to leverage the tools that you're using every single day, but they can be finicky. The connections can shut off. You might need to, update your connection or update your settings from time to time. And there are differences in what AI will actually be able to do with that connection. If you're using Claude and you're connecting to something like your Google Drive, it might only be able to read files from your Google Drive. It might not necessarily be able to put new files in your Google Drive. And so if you're working with Gemini, that connection that it has, it can both read information from your Google Suite, but it can also put information where you need it to go. So let's see here. I think we have a couple more questions. When the video recording goes out, are you able to provide the prompts as well? Yes, Jess, I'm more than happy to provide the prompts. That's no problem. And then we have a question from Boyd Commercial. What is the most effective way for Claude to interact with CoStar? Unfortunately, that's probably not a good idea. CoStar in particular doesn't like AI bots, getting let loose inside of their system. So I would say there are ways of using Claude to, search the internet. Something we actually didn't get to today is that Claude can open up its own AI internet browser to, scan different types of sites that maybe it can't access through just search results. But I would highly suggest that you don't do that with CoStar in particular. They're not really fans of people using AI to go in and look at their data. But if you want to export data, that's kind of a completely different topic. And so I would just recommend reviewing your terms of service if you're going to do anything like that. And your safest bet is probably just getting the information, uploading it to AI, and then working with that information in the AI tool. Is there any AI platform that allows you to create an OM template that will look the same every time you upload new info? I've heard Claude Design might do it in the future. So, a couple of things. I know I showed the example on ChatGPT. I would say if you want to use a off-the-shelf AI tool for creating decks and you want to use the same reusable template, Claude is right now at least going to be better at allowing you to recreate a reusable template. It's not always going to be perfect, but it's going to get a lot closer. Claude Design is very, very good, and you can save templates to reuse. They still probably won't be absolutely perfect, but it's coming a long way very, very quickly. One recommendation I would make is if creating decks and specifically, long offering memorandums is something that sucks up a whole lot of your time or your team's time, there is a commercial real estate specific platform called Henry AI that is purpose built for building offering memorandums. And they kind of specialize in creating, your decks in a way that they match your template every single time. But that said, because it's purpose built, it's also very expensive. It's not going to be a $20 a month Claude subscription. It's definitely a multiple hundreds of dollars a month platform, but it is very effective. Let's see. Do you have any quick use cases with CRMs that you can share, and which products interact great with LLMs? I would say for better or worse, the ones that interact the best are probably going to be the major well-known names, your HubSpots, your Monday.coms, your Salesforces, because they've built connectors that allow you to connect, your AI tool of choice to that platform. And so, using your CRM with AI, there's definitely different ways to do it, but it all kind of comes down to how do you conduct business development? Do you just want to touch base with people that you haven't called in a while? Or do you want to create a custom project where you can find out that, hey, a new property is now available? I'm going to load that brochure into my project, and that project has instructions to scan through all of my buyers and see which buyers this actually matches the criteria for. There's a lot of potential use cases when you're able to create a custom project for a specific CRM related task and actually connect it to your CRM. But it all kind of comes down to, what does your business development look like? Do you want to call 5 people a day? Do you want to call 10 people a day? Do you just want to instantly know, hey, who's a good fit for this property? But it all starts with kind of, creating those specific tasks that would actually help you save time with your prospecting or your CRM uses, and customizing AI so that it can actually execute that for you. And then let's see. Right at the bottom, we have, will any of the big LLMs connect to ZoomInfo to extract data? That is a great question. I believe that ZoomInfo does have an MCP connection, but I believe, and I would have to double check this, they put limits on how much information that you can get out of ZoomInfo, because they kind of want you going into ZoomInfo to actually use the platform. But I believe there are either at least some MCP connections or an API that's starting to get a little fancy and advanced that you can use to patch into your platform so that you have a direct pipe into their data. But it might cost additional money to use the API connection. And then I see we had FYI, Henry uses humans in addition to AI. That is a good point. They do have humans in the loop with Henry AI to create the decks. I would view Henry AI a little less as a standalone, AI off-the-shelf tool. It's more of a AI-powered deck creation service, but they get very good reviews. And I think we had one more here. Do you recommend composition to connect with non-native services in Claude? Composio. So I've heard of Composio. I personally haven't used it. My go-to for services that don't natively connect to Claude is to see if they have an API and then just use the API to connect. But I'm familiar with Composio, and I believe it is a tool that does make it easier to do that if they don't have a native connection, because working with an API, that's starting to get a little bit more advanced. And so I think that's everyone, but I do have a little bit more time if anybody has more questions. I do these presentations across the country. I've been asked questions of all shapes and sizes, and I assure you there's no stupid questions. So if anybody has any other questions, feel free to let it rip.
There is one more question, Topher, about in the chat that came in a couple minutes ago.
Let's see. I think I'm missing that one. Let's see. Is there any AI platform to create decks? I see CoStar. I see the video recording. I see Google Suite.
Will any of the big LLM connect to Zoom Info to extract data?
Oh, Zoom Info. Yeah, so I believe that they do offer an MCP connection. If not, I believe that they do offer an API, but I think it costs more money to use their API connection. So I would have to double check that one. I believe there are ways to do it, but I believe they charge more money for the use. Awesome. Well, I am more than happy to stick around for more questions, but one thing I just wanted to bring up to people, if anybody is interested in working in CRE AI Studio, we have over 30 different tutorials on using AI for specific commercial real estate workflows. And so typically, if anybody goes to the website, there's always a 7-day free trial, but anytime I do a presentation like this, I like to offer a 30 days. And so feel free to scan this QR code if you want a full 5 weeks of access to every AI for commercial real estate tutorial that we've covered. We do live sessions with Q&A. We do live sessions with outside industry experts. And so if you'd like additional instruction on using AI in commercial real estate, feel free to scan the QR code and we'd be happy to give you a free trial of the studio.
That's awesome, Topher. Thank you. And everybody, Topher is going to be in Chicago in a few months to follow up with part 2 here. So make sure you sign up for that and other reasons as well. And I know as a staff, we have lots of ideas that we'd like to talk to with Topher about going forward and how we can utilize his services within the entire network. So anyway, if there are no other questions.
Yeah, there were just a couple other questions, and Drew had a question. Topher, if you have another minute, you want to, or if anybody wants to unmute and just ask those, that might be easier.
I do have another minute. I'm happy to hang on. So why Notebook LM versus Claude Cowork project? So it does depend on what you're trying to do. And I typically look at these tools in terms of, there's off-the-shelf tools kind of built for everything. And then there's tools that are built for specific use cases. And Claude is an absolutely fantastic tool. So is ChatGPT. But at this point, they're trained on the entire history of the internet, and they still do have the ability to make up information. And so if you have a specific project, that you want to work with Claude to analyze documents in, I think that is still a good use case for Claude if you don't want to use Notebook LM. But I would say, you still do just want to be hyper aware of whether or not Claude can be hallucinating when it's reviewing your documents. And it's still a possibility with Notebook LM, but it's just purpose built to not do that. The other component that I really like with Notebook LM is just its ability to synthesize the information in different ways very quickly. And so there's a lot of ways you can synthesize information with Claude as well, but say you wanted to take some information and turn it into a 30-minute video you could watch. You could do that with Claude, but it would be a little bit clunky. It would probably take some reps in before you got a really good video. With Notebook LM, it's just kind of pre-packaged and ready to go and ready to create that, to synthesize information that way for you. So I hope that answers the question. I know it was kind of long-winded. Let's see. When I'm building Claude tour books, I often run into image limits. Have you run into this issue? And if so, do you have a solution? So I would honestly, the only time I've run into an image limit was earlier today when I was actually working on another example for this presentation. If you're not using Claude Cowork yet, I would say that's kind of the quick answer to getting over image limits because when you're using Claude Cowork, it has all of these AI platforms have limitations to what you can upload at once. But with image limitations in particular, I've noticed that if you're using Claude Cowork right on your desktop, I've never actually run into that image limitation when I'm using Claude in that capacity. So that would be my quick answer is try out Claude Cowork. I think that's all we got here. Copilot notebooks. Copilot notebooks. So if you're using Copilot, Copilot notebooks are very effective. It's kind of their take on creating Google notebook LMs. Again, I would go back to if you do have Copilot, feel free to try it out and see if it works for you. If I didn't have Copilot, I would default to notebooks and Notebook LM. That's my general answer there. Copilot is great. It's a great inbound, kind of onboard AI tool that a lot of people have access to. The features that they release are generally a couple of steps behind other common, AI tools. And so their Notebook LM, I've tried it with some use cases, and I did find myself being a little bit more skeptical of the information that it was pulling. And again, it doesn't have all the same bells and whistles for synthesizing the information. But if you have access to it, I would by all means try it out before you start paying for Notebook LM. So great question. How often are you switching between Claude, Opus, and Sonnet? Are there specific uses that you like? Um, Most of the time, I'm using Claude Opus. It really takes some experimentation to, dial in which model works best for each scenario because the newest model is typically going to work the best. Typically, if I'm using Sonnet, it's because it's just something that I know I don't necessarily need the best in class model for. And so, anytime I'm going to be extracting information from documents, I'm still probably going to be working with Opus, just because it's the best in class model. If I'm doing something like a quick internet search, I would probably default to Sonnet just so that I'm spending less tokens. But I think the real answer is once you've, found a use case that you're able to do effectively with Opus, try dialing it back to Sonnet and seeing if you still get the same quality of output. Because you don't want to be using a cheaper model just to save on tokens and all of a sudden getting a AI work product that's not even remotely as good. So hopefully that answers the question. How does Perplexity fit into your toolbox? I love Perplexity. In 1 hour, I didn't necessarily have time to do a dive deep on every specific use case. Um, again, going back to what these tools are purpose built for, AI or Perplexity AI is purpose built for finding information on the internet. And so, ChatGPT can do that too. Claude can do that as well, but it is what Perplexity is built for. And so Perplexity is kind of my front door to the internet. And that's typically what I'm using it for is kind of quick AI-powered internet searches. There are teams that are leveraging Perplexity because, it provides a good combination of being able to quickly pull information from the internet and cite its sources, but also do the same very effectively with your own internal knowledge base. And so it can kind of combine your company data and your company things that you're researching with information that you're pulling from the internet and cite all of its sources. Now, ChatGPT and Claude, they can connect, to internal data hubs, and where you're keeping all your documents and everything. But again, it's just not necessarily what they're built for. And so the people that I see using Perplexity the most is when that is kind of their chief concern, that they want to be able to access real-time web data, cite their sources, and combine that with information in their centralized document and knowledge hubs. So hopefully that makes sense.
And and just to reiterate, this session was recorded. It will be sent out to all. But if you don't have a new profile, you won't be able to access it going forward. There's another plug. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. But Topher, thanks again, and we'll look forward to working with you again shortly.
Awesome. We'll see you soon. I'm excited about Chicago. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.